In today's video, we're doing another twinscape experiment. I'm saying experiment because it sounds cool, but it's going to be more like a side-by-side comparison. So we're going to be comparing potted plants against tissue culture plants or in vitro plants. So one tank is going to be planted with just tissue culture, the other one is going to be planted with just potted plants. And then we just see what's going to happen. Very curious about this one. So if you've seen the previous experiment where we tested water changes versus no water changes, then these two tanks probably look familiar to you. If you haven't seen that video, then let's just quickly go over the entire setup. So these two tanks are from Doa, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but they're 30 centimeter all-in-one tanks. So they have a little filtration compartment in the back. Well, I've actually just cleaned them, so at the moment there's nothing in there. But we're going to add some biomedia in here, we're going to add some sponges and a little USB pump as well. Then for the lights, I'm using two Chihiros A series. This is the A301. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep these lights because they do give a little bit of a flicker on the screen. You guys might be able to see that. It's a little bit annoying. Not sure how to get rid of it, but yeah, I might upgrade the lights at some point. So the way these experiments work is really simple. We have two tanks. We're going to set them both up in the exact same way with just one variable. And in this case, it's the plants. Everything else will be exactly the same. So the same substrate, same hardscape, same water, same light, same CO2. The plant's going to be the same as well. I've ordered, I think, 5 or 6 different types, but from each type, one pot in vitro and one regular pot. So let's get to work. Let's start with the substrate. Okay, so we're going to start with the ADA substrate additives. These additives come with a little measuring scoop, so every tank is going to get 1 scoop of each product. So we have some beneficial bacteria, something that helps promote the root growth, and something that helps just with nutrient uptake for the plants. Okay, next up I'm going to add some root caps. So I'm going to give each tank, I think, 3. You can leave them whole, but I like to open them up just so I can spread the nutrients a little bit more equally, you know. Otherwise it's very concentrated in 3 locations. Okay, we have the substrate additives, we have the nutrient caps. Now I'm just going to cover everything with Aquasoil. Of course, same amounts in both tanks, so I have a little jug. I can't really remember how much I used last time. I think it was basically 2 liters in each tank. I don't want to use too much because I'm not going to run these experiments for a very long time, so just enough to plant in basically. It's a little bit too thin, especially for carboning plants, so I'm going to do 2.5. Okay, substrate is done, so technically we can move on straight to planting. Because it's an experiment, we don't really need hardscape. But I still want these 2 tanks to look nice. I want it to look like 2 small aquascapes, so I have 2 pieces of spider wood. I'm just going to make a very simple hardscape. Okay, so really simple, just 1 piece of wood in each tank. Something like that. Maybe this one pointing the other direction. Oh, it looks good. Let's add in some rocks. Okay, I've moved this one around so they look a little bit more identical, and there's no discussion whether or not one tank has more shadow than the other one, for example. The flow is the same as well. So just some rocks for a little bit of weight to the piece of wood. Here we go, just 2 very simple layouts, 1 piece of wood, 3 rocks, and I think it looks nice. Still have enough room for plants as well. And I'm now just quickly going to attach the wood to the rocks with some super glue. So just a little bit of cotton, I'm going to wedge it in there. Then I'll do one underneath here as well. And then we'll just saturate the cotton with some liquid super glue. Okay, substrate done, hardscape done, so now we can start planting. I'm just going to quickly move the tanks out of the way so the table is empty, then I can show you the plants. So we have Argopla tivida, Staurogani repens, Alternater Reniki mini, Hemianthus cuba, Leopsis brasiliensis,
And lastly, we have Pogasmon deccanensis.
6 different varieties. I think this should look really good. So I'm just quickly going to prepare all these plants. I'll make sure to keep everything separate because of course the tissue culture plants are basically free from algae, pesticides, snails, all that kind of stuff. These are just from the greenhouse, so there could be some algae on there, could be some snails in here as well. So I'll just make sure to keep everything separate. So I think it's quite interesting to see the differences in quantity between pots and tissue culture, especially with the Liliopsis. So a potted Liliopsis compared to a tissue culture Liliopsis. With tissue culture you get way more plants, you know. And on the other hand, with the Pogasmon erectus you get quite a lot in a pot and very little in a tissue culture cup. Okay guys, I'm going to start with the tissue culture plants. I've just been kind of separating things into smaller portions. Kind of feel like it's unfair because the quantity is just a lot higher, but yeah, we'll see. Tissue culture plants are more sensitive, so it could be that some of it starts melting. So I'm going to start planting this one. Okay guys, planting is done. Everything was used apart from the Liliopsis. There was just no way I was going to get all the Liliopsis in the tank on the right. But I think it looks really good. They both look the same, but also different, you know? So I'm really curious to see how this experiment is going to evolve. The only thing I have to do now is to take care of the filtration compartment. Then we can move the tanks back to the shelf, fill them up with water, and then we just wait. So I started this experiment on the 11th of July, and 2 days later the tanks looked like this. Both of them had cleared up, CO2 was up and running, and everything was looking really good. On the 17th of July, so almost a week in, some of the plants in the tissue culture tank were showing signs of melting. And this is exactly what I was afraid of. Here are some close-ups of the plants in the potted tank, and as you can see they already look a lot better. On the 27th of July, 16 days into the experiment, things were looking quite sad for the tissue culture tank. The Pinnatifida had almost completely melted, but luckily the carpet had stopped melting and was now slowly coming back. Meanwhile, in the potted plants aquarium, things were looking pretty good. All the plants were growing well, and we basically have a full carpet. The only plant that struggled a little bit here was the Pogasmon deccanensis, and I had to remove some plant material from the filter intake. On the 4th of August, things were looking pretty bad. The tissue culture tank was covered in green dust algae, so I did a little maintenance session, and the next day it was looking a bit better. But even though the plants had stopped melting, the overall growth was pretty slow. While on the other side, the plants were growing like crazy. Unfortunately, there was quite a bit of algae here as well. On the 25th of August, the tank with potted plants was looking completely overgrown and I had to do something about it. And you can see that the tissue culture tank was starting to look better. We now almost have a full carpet, the Rheineckii is looking pretty good, and even the Pinnatifida had started growing again. Okay guys, it is now August 29. I think it's time to wrap up this experiment. I think we've seen enough. I think the most interesting part is over, the startup phase. And right now both tanks are stable and the plants are kind of growing at the same rate. So in this particular experiment, the potted plants performed better than the tissue culture plants. The potted plants were doing great from day one, while the tissue culture plants had a bit of a rough start. They're doing okay now though. So does this mean that tissue culture plants are bad? Of course not. I think in this experiment we were just a little bit unlucky with all the melt in the beginning, but the plants that didn't melt, so the AR Mini and the S Weapons, in my opinion actually look a little bit better than the ones in the potted tank. Like the growth in here is just a little bit more compact, you know, which I personally really like. So final conclusion, I do think that tissue culture plants are more sensitive, so there's a bit of a risk involved. So if you want to play it safe, go for potted plants. I think that's it. I'm curious what you guys think. Are you team potted or are you team tissue culture? Let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.